Alright people, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be giving more impressions of Tears of the Kingdom. I am nearing 40 hours played. I actually thought I had more in yesterday's video, but I'm nearing 40 hours played. It says 35 or more, so I'm getting there. And I wanted to give some more impressions before I beat the game, because I think I'm getting very close to completing the main story quest. Of course, the typical disclaimer with these videos, I can't show footage because Nintendo's gonna Nintendo. I also will not be talking about story spoilers here in this video. I will be talking, however, about gameplay spoilers. I will be talking about the things that replace Divine Beasts in this game, the things that replace shrines in this game, as well as parts of the map, let's just say. So if you're just afraid of story spoilers, you're safe in this video, but if you don't want to know anything about gameplay or gameplay elements that Nintendo did not reveal, this video will contain that kind of talk. So click off the video, that's fine. I don't begrudge you for that. And after I give my impressions, I will also be answering questions from you guys. I asked in my comments of the video yesterday, the performance video, for questions. So I have some questions to read, and we'll be getting to that in the second half of the video. I'll put a timestamp down below if you're just interested in the questions. So impressions. Man, almost 40 hours in. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but they really did the impossible with this game. It is better than Breath of the Wild in actually every way. And I know that sounds crazy, and it's also weird because I feel like I'm like bragging about having the game. It's a little, I'm like numb to it almost, because I've had the game for like 5 days now. You know, whereas I know everybody else is waiting, and that concept of this being better than Breath of the Wild is basically unbelievable, because until this point, Breath of the Wild was my favorite Zelda game, or at least second favorite next to Wind Waker, and Tears of the Kingdom, I would say, is substantially better than Breath of the Wild. It's not close. Let's not, you know, let's make this very clear. Tears of the Kingdom is so much better than Breath of the Wild that I don't even think it's close. That's a huge statement to make, but I think I'm ready to make it. It is insane how much content and thought they put into every inch of this game. So, final gameplay spoilers, warning here. Let's talk about dungeons. I've done 4 dungeons so far. They are still kind of similar to Divine Beasts, and I talk about this in my impressions because I had done the dungeon related to the Rito at that point. Of course, each tribe still has their dungeon, right? As you would expect from this game. I did the Rito dungeon, and I was really impressed. The lead up to that dungeon especially really impressed me. It's like this really long platforming section that was awesome. Really cool stuff. And then the dungeon itself I thought was really good as well. Themes are back. It's not just a sterile Divine Beast. However, the puzzles are still, they're still kind of Divine Beast-esque. You know, you're still activating terminals. You're still doing those things in any order that you choose. When we say we want dungeons back in the next Zelda game, in this case, Tears of the Kingdom, we meant 3D Zelda, you know, Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword dungeons. But the more I played this game, the more I realized that just wouldn't work. You know, having a dungeon item, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that in an open world game, in a game where you can go to any place at any point. So I think for what they have here, I think they did a really good job. The dungeons in this game are awesome. The boss fights, I'm not going to spoil the bosses, but they're really good. And they're all very unique, which was a big issue with the blights for me in Breath of the Wild. Every boss in this game is incredibly unique. Some of them are easier than others. I will say the the dungeon in the, let's just say, southwest portion of the map, if you know where that is, that boss was easily the hardest boss so far in the game. Like, it's not even close. I don't know why that one gave me so much trouble, although I guess that boss in Breath of the Wild also gave me the most trouble, to be fair. So the bosses are great, and you know, I'm saying like, oh, it's more similar to Divine Beasts, and that's, I think, for most people a negative thing, but it's not. They're not. The quality increase in the dungeons in this game and the puzzles within the dungeons is substantial. It is still the same general concept where you're activating terminals, but with the new ability, specifically Ascend and Recall, the puzzles in general, the puzzle solving is just much tighter. And that applies to shrines as well. Shrines in this game, I think it's not even close how much better they are than Breath of the Wild. You know, there are still some pretty simple shrines that you'll figure out in 2 seconds, and you'll be like, oh, was that it? But most of them, and maybe it's just the novelty, you know, maybe it's the novelty of Recall and Ascend and Ultra Hand still being relatively new, but the puzzle design in this game is much better. Stasis and Magnesis and those abilities from Breath of the Wild, those are awesome, and I love them, but they didn't lend themselves to more traditional Zelda puzzles. Fuse and Ultra Hand and especially Ascend and Recall do. They make it feel more like an actual Zelda game. I see so many people saying like, oh, they brought back shrines. That's not a bad thing. I like the shrines in Breath of the Wild as well, but if you just want more traditional Zelda puzzles, you have them. They are in this game, in the shrines. And there still are shrines, like I said, that are stupid. There's one specific shrine. I won't go into too much detail here. I can't remember where it was on the map, but they basically have shrines now that are, well, they replaced the tests of strength, basically. But they're not like that. Trust me, they're not like that. If you are not a fan of the tests of strength in Breath of the Wild, you will be fine with these. They are much, much better. There was one where there's this Zonai device that kind of targets enemies. So it's basically a Roomba, basically. And I was having trouble with it. Because, I don't know, it didn't click to me that I should use Ultra Hand and put spikes on it. But then I realized I can just deck these things out with weapons. So I put a spike wall on it, and then I put an electric, I don't even know, on it, and then I put a cannon on it, so it was shooting freaking cannonballs, and the enemies could not stand a chance. The first couple times I tried it, that didn't click with me, but eventually it did. So you still have that Breath of the Wild kind of puzzle solving, I would say, and that it's open-ended. But then there are shrines that are much more focused. I've done a couple shrines now where, you know, I got to the solution and I was like, wow, this isn't like Breath of the Wild. This is a much more focused puzzle where I'm sure people will break this game left and right, but it doesn't feel like there's as many options as there was in Breath of the Wild for certain shrines. And I think having a good mix of those is very important. So the shrines across the board, I've done, I think, 60 of them at this point, are very good. I love them. There are also some that are just still the same as Breath of the Wild, where you just walk in and you get it. I don't know what's up with that. They just want to give you a checkpoint, I guess, or a teleportation point during certain sections of the game, but those are always funny. It's like, oh, I don't have to do anything. Give me this spirit orb or whatever it is in this game, right? So that stuff is all awesome. Dungeon shrines, love it. Overworld exploration. So in my last video, I talked about, big spoiler warning on this one for gameplay. I had talked about the underground a little bit and how I hadn't played too much of it. And I got a lot of people saying I was emulating the game because of that, because I guess it doesn't run good on emulators. Nope, I have the game right here. I'm playing on my Switch OLED. At that point, I hadn't done too much of the underground because they don't really ask very much of you for that at the start of the game. But I've done a couple quests now. I've done some side quests, and I also have some guides coming up for some of these side quests that pretty much require you to go down there. It's really cool. I'm worried because, you know, I've maybe cleared out 10% of the underground map in terms of lighting it up. I'm a little worried. It doesn't feel like there's a ton of actual content down there. It feels like I'm kind of just beelining to the next teleportation point in this game, the light routes. Fun fact, if you playing this game, they're actually beneath shrines, which is really cool. So if you can't find where to go on the underground, or if you can't find a shrine in the main map, just cross-reference, and it's actually the same spot, which is a cool detail. But yeah, I'm definitely worried about how much content there is. It feels like a lot of enemy camps, you know, there's no Koroks underground, there's no shrines underground. It feels like a place to mine, basically. Mine materials and get some cool stuff. And it's a cool setting for sure. But I do wonder how people will feel about it when they've cleared it completely. And I'm sure there is more cool stuff that I haven't seen. I still haven't found like a town underground. I can't imagine there's not a singular town underground. It's definitely full of intrigue and mystery, and from the like 10% of the map or so that I said I've been to, it's been cool. I can definitely see a scenario where people complain that there's not enough to do underground. But it's still a really, really cool setting. As for the main map, you know, I'm at the point now where I was with Breath of the Wild, where I go to a tower and I glide around and I can't see any shrines anymore because I've done them all. So, you know, 60 shrines in it. There's 150 shrines, I believe, is the number, 152 or something like that. That means there's still almost 100 that I haven't done, and I'm already running out of like the really visible ones. So I would assume those are going to be in caves or, you know, underground sections, not underground, but you know, like in the valley of the Gerudo Desert or something, right? So there's going to be a lot of exploration to do there, and just exploring is fun. I have been making mostly beelines for story stuff at this point because I am trying to beat the game. Now I think I have 20 hearts. I have 2 full stamina wheels. So yeah, but I mean, exploration, it is Breath of the Wild exploration. It's still very fun. I have gotten more used to Ultra Hand also, because I got the auto build ability that leaked in the IGN preview from a few weeks back. just building a quick little flying machine. I think when I recorded last video, I hadn't gotten to the point yet where any shrine or any puzzle had me using the little controls for Ultra Hand creations. So basically, let's say you have the flying bird piece that we've seen in all the trailers. You put 2 fans on it. If you plop this control mechanism in the middle of it, it'll let you actually control where it goes, which is really cool. It adds a lot. There was also another shrine where they just put you in with like a bunch of like monster trucks basically and you just run them over. Stuff like that is really cool in this game. Ultra Hand, I've gotten used to controlling it at this point. It's still a little wonky, but for the most part, it's really cool and a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what people create because I'm not that creative, but usually the game's pretty hand-holding in terms of if you see the flying bird thing and 2 fans or a rocket or something, you know they want you to use that, right? So it's not like you have to just run around the map collecting pieces. They usually pretty easily telegraph what you should be doing. Let's talk about the performance again. I made a video yesterday. If you missed it, go check it out. Talking just about performance. And I guess I will say this now. This is, I guess, not really a spoiler because we saw it in the trailer. I alluded to the area in the game. There is one area in this game that, for me, ran really poorly. I was playing undocked. I have not played it docked because I finished the dungeon. I finished the area. Well, I finished the dungeon in undocked mode, so I haven't gone back there. The fire dungeon or the fire temple in the Gerudo, or not Gerudo. Wow, that'd be weird. In Death Mountain ran really bad for me, like horrifyingly bad. This is after the patch that has come out, version 1.1. However, I got a lot of very interesting comments on that video saying that they didn't have issues with it. I've seen some people saying that if you are playing the game, like playing a downloaded version of the game, like through NAND or whatever, I'm not a tech expert, that maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they didn't have issues with it. Maybe it was just because I was playing undocked, but I've never seen a difference that drastic between undocked and docked with any Switch game, to the point where it would be acceptable. So it seems like everybody's experience is different with this one. I will say, though, I got a lot of comments saying, like, oh, the game runs like crap across the board. No. The point of that video was to let you know that there are areas that run poorly, but for the most part, it runs fine. It runs like you would expect an open-world Zelda game on Switch to run in 2023. It runs fine for the most part, but there are those areas, and I just want to make sure people are aware of what they're getting into when they go to that area in this game, because I'm not worried. I think Nintendo will patch it. The fact that there's already a patch pre-release that has helped performance, I do think it'll get patched. I don't think it'll be on day one. I don't think they're going to drop another patch, but I would say within a couple weeks, maybe a month or two, they will probably have it mostly ironed out. I remember Korok Forest with Breath of the Wild took a while for them to fix. So the performance really isn't an issue. Some people are trying to blow what I said out of proportion. It is really just that one area which you will spend maybe an hour in, For the most part, though, exploring the sky, exploring the main map, exploring the underground, performance is completely fine. Even the tutorial area, which I mentioned in my initial impressions, which was running poorly for me, that was before the patch came out, people are saying that with the patch, it runs much better. So they're already working on fixing the performance of this game in certain areas, and I think within a few months, it'll be completely fine. I don't want people to take what I said out of context. It is literally just that one area so far that has been a true issue for me. So performance-wise, I think this game is doing pretty good for what it is. All right, let's get into some questions here. Let me pull up my phone. There were just some miscellaneous questions. Some of these might be a little bit spoilery. Once again, gameplay-wise, I'm not going to answer story stuff here. So here we have KMB 1800 said, "Are there still cool weapons that don't require fuse to be useful?" So someone can correct me on this in the comments below. I'm pretty sure just every weapon from Breath of the Wild is still there for the most part. I'm not sure how many new weapons there are. There are some that I've gotten through doing some story stuff, if you know, you know, that are really cool, that are almost certainly new, that have, drawbacks and pluses, so those are cool. But, I haven't done too much, I haven't fought a Lynel yet, for example, so those, really cool weapons, I'm not too sure, but I would imagine all that stuff would be there. Plus, then you have fuse, and there was actually another question here. Let me pull it down, or pull down here. There was definitely a question I saw about it. Let's see here. Yeah, Pro15739 said, "Are there weapons that are as strong as Breath of the Wild? For example, 60 to 100 in damage. Using fuse, I've seen weapons go up to as high as 250. Yeah, you can make some very powerful weapons. Myself, not having not beaten the game, having not done a ton of like post-game grinding, I guess you would call it, for this game, I've already had weapons over 100 in damage, which is really cool. So that stuff, there's going to be some crazy builds, let's put it that way. Because if you just fuse a sword that has 50 and another sword that has 50, first of all, you have a longer sword, which is great, but it combines the damage. I'm not sure if there's like some other reasoning for like how the numbers are combined, because I think I've combined stuff and it hasn't just inherently increased. I think I combined 2 shields and it didn't increase the defense stat, so I'm not entirely sure how that works, but just know you can get some crazy powerful weapons in this game through the fuse. Nate asked, what's the number of Koroks? Still 900. I actually haven't been able to find a number for this, but, and I will say, if you click on the timestamp, some more spoilers here for gameplay stuff, once again, but I haven't seen an exact number for Koroks in the anywhere online. I don't think it has been data mined yet. But since there are no Koroks in the underground, I would assume it's still around 900. Probably a nice even 1,000. I would assume they probably made it a nice even 1,000 in this game. All right, someone asked, can you build your own house? So I haven't done the Hateno questline yet, but I have seen that apparently you still have your house from Breath of the Wild. But not only that, you can actually customize it with like floor patterns and stuff now, almost like Animal Crossing. So I'll definitely have a video up on that when the game comes out, because that's really cool. I haven't done it yet, but I have seen people talking about it. Someone else asked, can you talk about dungeons, comparing them both to traditional Zelda games and Breath of the Wild? Well, I kind of already did that, but I do think they're close to Divine Beasts in terms of structure, but they are much, much better. They have the themes, they have the unique bosses, and the puzzles in general are designed much tighter, like a traditional Zelda game, in my opinion. And maybe that, will, settle in this game for a year or two, and that will change, and we'll see. But right now, I'm pretty positive on them. Not as good as a traditional Zelda game, don't get me wrong, but significantly better than Divine Beast, which I never liked at all, basically. They also said also a word on caves. So I haven't done too much spelunking, but it's always really cool when you find a cave, because it actually pops up like Discovery, and it'll tell you the name of the cave. And there's usually, there's like this weird frog thing you have to shoot, and you get the bubble gem. I don't even know what those do. If you've been playing the game on an emulator or something, let me know. What do the bubble gems do? Because I don't know what those are, and that's how you actually complete the cave, so you'll get a little check mark on it. So for completionists, caves are an absolute nightmare, but it's really cool when you find them. And some of them are really short, but some of them are much longer, which is nice. Stefan said, so what percentage of the game do you think you completed till now with 40 hours played? So, like I said, I think I have around 60, maybe 62 or 64 shrines. Yeah, I think I've done like 60 shrines or so. I've done 4 dungeons, and I think I'm pretty close to the end of the main story. But in terms of actual percentage for 100% completion, I'm not even close. We know there's close to 400 caves in this game. I've maybe completed 10. I have all the towers in the main map. I've maybe done, like I said, 10% of the underground map in terms of mapping it out. Just like ballpark, maybe 15% of the game, almost 40 hours in. So that might be a high estimate. I'm not sure. I haven't done too many other side quests. It's mostly been main story stuff and just any shrine that I see as I go through. So it's definitely a huge game. Definitely much bigger than Breath of the Wild. G Games asked, weird question. I heard the Redeads are called something else and that they can fly. I'm asking because how bizarre it sounds. Yeah, that really surprised me. I took a picture of it for the compendium and I was like, oh, this is called a Gibdo. Yeah, the Redeads we saw in the trailer back in February, I believe? Yeah, they're Gibdos. I don't know why. They clearly look like Redeads, and there are also flying variants. I don't know why they changed the name of them. Because Gibdos I thought were mummies, right? And I mean, I guess they're kind of close in concept. But it's a little weird. They're called Gibdos now. I don't know. Austin said, no questions for you to answer. Just wanted to say thanks for all you do and keep it up, good sir. Can't wait till Friday to play myself. Thank you, Austin. I appreciate all the support. Ryan asked, 2-parter if you don't mind. How does the vibe of the game feel? Ever since the 2019 trailer, I've hoped for something a little dark in mood and was wondering if any parts of the story feel that way. So the story itself, no spoilers, is very dark. I would say this is one of the dark. It's not as dark as Majora's Mask. I mean, I don't think they'll ever make a game like that again. I don't think Nintendo as a company will ever do that again. But it's definitely much darker than any other Zelda game, maybe aside from Majora's Mask. I guess Link's Awakening, if you really want to say, like, oh, it's so sad that he was dreaming or whatever. But it's really dark. It's really creepy, seeing Ganondorf, it's creepy, man. It's a creepy game at certain moments. And just like the voice acting, I think it's something, impressions related. Something I will say, the voice acting in this game is really good. I definitely want to shout out specifically Ganondorf's VO and Zelda's VO. Zelda especially, you can tell how much that voice actor improved since Breath of the Wild. She did an incredible job with her performance in this game, and Ganondorf as well, adding to that creepy factor in certain aspects. Your other question, never finished Breath of the Wild, but I'm unbelievably excited for this game because of the new mechanics / Islands. Do you think the changes will make for a better experience the second time around? So, I'm assuming you're asking if I think Tears of the Kingdom will be more replayable than Breath of the Wild. I think that's the question. If not, I apologize. But I think Breath of the Wild is actually pretty replayable. I was surprised by how much it held up when I replayed it back in April. But I think this game will also just hold up at least that much, if not more, just because it's a better game. If that was the question, I apologize if I misunderstood. G Game said, actually, I have another question. Are there any more original enemies returning? If so, which? I think we have seen all of them. Of course, Gibdos. We know those are Gibdos. There are some new enemies. We had seen like the flying enemy, the Aracuda. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's anything else that I'm forgetting. Like I said, there's other new enemies that I won't talk about, like in the underground. But I think that's it. In terms of like old Zelda games having new enemies come back, we know about Gleeok. Someone will have to correct me, but I don't think so. I don't think so. Obviously, likes are back, with new variants and all that. But yeah, in terms of older, like there's no Darknuts in this game, for example. All right, I don't actually see a question for this in this thread, but I'm just going to say it now because I've gotten so many comments on it, so many videos. People have been asking two things. First of all, is there fishing? No, there's no fishing. There's no fishing rod. It's not like that. It's not that kind of game. You just hop into the pond and grab the fish. I know it's going to disappoint a lot of people, but it is what it is. The other thing, and this will also disappoint people, you can't go underwater. There's no diving in this game. I was really expecting it. And even when we had that gameplay demonstration, there was definitely some sus stuff going on. But no, there's no underwater exploration. But don't let that disappoint you because, I don't know. Water areas in games kind of suck for the most part, unless they do it really well. And I feel like the caves almost like take the spot of what that would have been anyway in terms of the content. So if you could go in every well of water, or every just, hot spring or, whatever, that'd be kind of a lot. And also very annoying to explore if it happened. Do I have to build a flying craft to reach some islands, or is there another way to reach them in the beginning? So by the time you finish the tutorial, you'll have the recall ability, and there are these just broken pieces of the Sky Islands all around the map. You'll see them falling, and you can just use recall on that, and it'll get you up high. You can also use the towers to get very high, because they launch you out now when you go in them. So there's other ways to get to the islands than just making stuff. If you really don't want to make stuff, you can probably go through this entire game without really making any flying machines or any vehicles in the main map. Obviously in shrines you have to for puzzles, but if you just want to explore without doing that, you're pretty much safe. They also ask, how linear is this game? And this is going to be the final question. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody. Don't want this video to be too long. This is something that has really surprised me the more I've played. I am excited to see how speedruns handle this, because it is open the same way that Breath of the Wild is. You can do any of the 4 dungeons in any order. You can do any shrine in any order. You can go to the northeast, northwest, anywhere on the map from the very start after you do the tutorial. However, and if you've beaten the game, if you're playing it alongside me, on an emulator, or if you have a copy of the game right now, because it seems like a lot of people watching my videos actually have played the game, there is a bottleneck point where I guess you could continue playing and just go through it without doing a certain amount of quests, but it's going to be a pain in the butt, because this is maybe too much spoiler. It's not story stuff, but just click off, I guess, if you really don't want to know this. There is a 5th dungeon that you do after the main 4, and it is like this whole chain of events that you need to do to get it. I guess you could still do it without doing that, but there's also, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but it's going to be very interesting to see how Let's Players handle this, because I don't think it's as open as Breath of the Wild is in that way. I don't think you can even go straight to Ganondorf to fight him, at least from what I've seen. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you need to do a couple things before you do that. You can skip the 4 main dungeons, I think, but you definitely have to do a couple other things before you can fight the final boss. So it's actually, story-wise, I would say more linear than Breath of the Wild. Of course, you can choose to do anything in any order, so it's truly still open world and open-ended. But in terms of funneling you through a story, I do think this game is a little bit more aggressive than Breath of the Wild, which I actually think is really good. It's good for the story, and it adds more of those like epic moments. It adds more weight to everything happening, because a lot of it is happening in real time, right? So really cool stuff there. I actually really like that change. But I'm excited to see what speedrunners do with this, because if you can't go straight to fight Ganondorf, that's going to be a little weird. But maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe you can find him. I haven't found him. I don't know where he would be. So we'll see. But I do think you need to do some story stuff before that. So yeah, I'm excited to see what speedrunners do with this one. So that's going to do it for this video. Sorry I couldn't get to everybody's questions. Maybe if you want me to do a full Q&A, I guess I could do that. Leave more questions down in the comments below. Maybe I'll pull up another Q&A before the game comes out and before reviews drop, which I think will be on Wednesday. I will have another video maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, talking about the game after I beat it, in which I'll go in more depth on some spoiler stuff, but also non-spoiler. I always have a non-spoiler section for you all for that kind of stuff, or at least non-story spoiler, I should say. But stay tuned for that. Of course, subscribe here so you don't miss a single Tears of the Kingdom upload. You guys have been killing it lately. I really, really do appreciate the support and kindness on these videos. It's meant a lot to me. I really do appreciate it, and let's keep it going. We're approaching 20K subs. That's crazy. So yeah, subscribe here so you don't miss a single video. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. And until next time, folks, peace.